It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Well, today's episode could go a little bit long, and tomorrow I'm going to have a part 2 of today's episode. But we're going to talk about Ninestar these next couple of days. Tomorrow I'm going to share my thoughts on Ninestar's first half of FY 2022. They're out, they're published. I went through my analysis of that. I'm going to share that with you all tomorrow. But today I want to talk about Ninestar in general, and we all know Ninestar is the Chinese company that bought Lexmark back in 2016. And folks, over these last few years, Ninestar has quickly gained more and more ownership in Lexmark, and now it's at a point where basically Ninestar will definitely control everything that goes on over there at Lexmark. But you know, for a long time I've been talking about consolidation in the print space. Been a little bit critical of the OEMs out there, and it seems our friends over there at Ninestar have really been gobbling up some assets. They recently, just like a couple of weeks ago, they bought a company called Prink. You know, and they're gobbling up all the consumable business, right? I mean, just gobbling them up. They got the chip, business going over there. They bought Static Control a while back, G&G. Folks, so they're out there gobbling up some assets. And all these assets, by the way, are around A4 technologies. Now, I will tell you this, is Ninestar ahead of everybody else? Because obviously the whole industry is going to A4, and Ninestar's out there gobbling up A4 assets. So, I've been very, very, let's just say, a little bit critical of my friends out there, those OEMs that don't have A4 strategies. And the A4 strategy to buy all the equipment from Ninestar through Lexmark might be something you're going to have to rethink as geopolitics play more and more of a role in our industry. And folks, all the OEMs are going to have to rethink that strategy. It's just the reality. And we don't have to talk about it, or we can as an industry. And I'm hopeful that today's episode will spark some of the other analysts in the industry to go ahead and start talking about this stuff, because folks, I will say this, it seems like the industry's analysts are starting to follow me a little bit faster. It used to take them like a year before they'd get on the same bandwagon as me, because I'm out there ahead a little bit of everybody. But now it seems like they're really jumping on. If we're getting some momentum on the end of the day with Ray, the other analysts will be doing videos about it. I mean, they're talking about Forex now, which is fantastic. They're starting to share more about the OEM's financials, which is fantastic. I mean, they'll get better at doing that, hopefully, as time goes on. And I'm hopeful that they'll start asking, Ninestar some questions. Because, folks, I went to the blogs, and there's not a whole lot of information out there around Ninestar in our industry. The regular blogs. You can find it in the consumable space because they see it as a huge threat. But, the imaging channel blog, for instance, I couldn't even find a category for Ninestar. And, the Canada report had a couple little things out there, but nothing really of any critique, if you will. And so I'm hopeful that the rest of the analysts will start looking at Ninestar a little bit deeper and start sharing some of their own thoughts regarding this company, because it's truly I'm just going to call it what it is. I believe it to be a big threat to the A4 industry. And if we all agree that the business print is all moving to A4, then we need to pay attention to any threats around that A4 movement, right? I mean, that's just common sense. But I'm just going to ask a couple of questions in today's episodes, and I'm going to ask those questions through my PowerPoints I put together. And I want all of you to go do your own research. Go out there and look at stuff, start reading stuff, start asking people questions, start learning more and more and more about the OEMs that you're engaged with, so you can prepare yourselves when things might change. And I got to just ask everybody a question. How will geopolitics affect the Ninestar land grab? And if we don't think this is a reality, I think we're all naive as hell. They will affect the Ninestar land grab. Big time, I believe. Who's playing by the rules? As we look at the Chinese organizations and how they go to market, are they playing by the same rules as all the other OEMs? There's a couple rules I got a big question on. Is there balance and trust between the China and U.S. regarding Western technologies in China government offices and Chinese technologies in Western government offices? Are we going to start looking at this a little bit harder? Environmental laws banning single-use printer cartridges. Folks, I'm going to end today's episode around this subject, but it's not how you think. When I looked at this resolution that passed in LA, and I started really thinking about this and using my imagination a little bit, I think this has huge implications And it's not just about the cartridges. But stay tuned for that. And I got to ask, will minds change? Are minds ready to change, or at least are minds ready to be more open so they can ask more questions? Because we just can't live in a naive bubble because we're afraid that someone might get mad, which is a big deal with our industry. Don't bring anything to substance because, oh, you might make somebody mad and that would be a terrible thing. Well, I guess I could be pretty good at making people mad sometimes, but if I can make people think, I win. So folks, here's the reality. Back in 2016, Ninestar purchased a company called Lexmark. We all know who they are, right? I'm asking the question today, is Lexmark moving the rest of the furniture to China? By the end of September of 2022, the month we're currently in, Ninestar will have a 63.04% stake in Lexmark. You might as well say that Ninestar will be controlling all of Lexmark. I mean, it's safe to say with a 63% ownership, and that ownership will eventually get to 100%. PAG reduces down to 32.51%. And folks, the last player has 4.45%. So you could see Ninestar definitely gobbling up more of that ownership since back in 2016 when they acquired 51.18%. And 51.18%, by the way, gives them the controlling interest. But 63.04%, well, it just lets them do whatever they want, for sure, at that point. I think we could all agree. So, ladies and gentlemen, you know, I want to talk a little bit about Pantom, Lexmark, Russian sanctions, and how Pantom and Lexmark, how are they really working together over there at Ninestar? And I found this article. It was in the RT Media, and it's, you know, RT Media, great publication. I know David Gibbons and the team really well. They published a lot of my stuff in there. And folks, I want to read this, and then I want you all to kind of think along with me. Ninestar claims no conflict between Pantom and Lexmark in reply to the queries from the China Securities Regulatory Commission. So the China Securities Regulatory Commission, we could probably all use or imagine exactly what that is, but they're asking, hey, if you have this Pantom printer, and is that going to be a conflict with Lexmark? And I'm just, this whole article to me seems a little bit nonsensical. I mean, it just seems a little bit nonsensical to me. But when you go to and you just kind of read through it, I just want to read you something here real quick. Pantom and Lexmark will not compete with each other as their self-developed products are greatly different in function and price, and as a result, they have different target channels and customers. So, you know, the Pantom's for the low-end customers, and the Lexmark's really for those, you know, bigger businesses. And we can all use our imagination on that because, you know, Lexmark has a lot of printers that are for the low-volume customers too, right? I mean, just think about that a little bit. But listen to this. Pantom and Lexmark will complement their production lines through original design manufacturing, ODM, exerting a strategic synergy effect. Pantom will purchase ODM products from Lexmark to supply the information technology application innovation market, and a few go to the business market. And folks, Lexmark purchases ODM products from Pantom to meet the demand for diversity. So what does all that mean? I mean, if you just translate that, it means that they're both made at the same place. They're on the assembly line. They're going to share strategic synergies. I guess they're just going to change labels as they go down the assembly line. I mean, am I seeing something different there? It would be awesome for Pantom and Lexmark to answer that question. Are these things made at the same factory? Do you just put different labels on them depending on where you want them to go in the world or what product you want to sell? Now, I realize that the Pantom products don't have the big giant A4s, right? The stand-up stuff. They just got the little ones. But a whole lot of little ones are sold by Lexmark too. So I'm just asking that question. I think it's a valid question. So let's talk about the sanctions. And I think it needs to be addressed. And at the end of the day, Lexmark put out the news release March 20, 22. I just found this on the website, March 17th of 2022. As a global organization, Lexmark feels a responsibility to take action to support Ukraine. Early in the conflict, we suspended all shipments into Russia. We are complying with all sanctions levied by the United States and the European Union. We have made a donation to the Red Cross to support relief efforts in this escalating humanitarian crisis. We will continue closely monitoring the situation and hope for a swift and peaceful resolution. Lexmark did what every OEM in our industry did, right? They said, hey, we're going to abide by these sanctions because we think it's right. But Ninestar owns Lexmark. And I didn't see any press release coming out of Ninestar. Okay? I mean, there's a reason that the mom and dads are in charge of the minors. And the minors can't go out there and sign mortgages and stuff, right? To buy the house, the parents do. And I want you all to think about this. The Lexmark's just like the child. I mean, whatever they say, is it even really relevant? Or does the parents, Ninestar, really have to say? That's a valid question. So folks, this is in the T Advisor, Business in Russia, and let me just read this. 2022, leaving Russia with the sale of the Russian office of the Marvel Group company. On August 5th, 2022, it became known that the parent company of the Russian electronics distributor, Marvel Distribution, F Plus Equipment and Development, bought out the Russian division of the American printer manufacturer Lexmark. The value of the transaction was not disclosed. Read more. So we know that Lexmark had a joint venture in Russia with Marvel, making the Marvel printer for the Russian marketplace. We also know that Lexmark said, we're not going to sell to Russia. And now they're saying, just a little while ago, we were made aware that Lexmark sold off their interest in that Russian in Denver. Okay, so we get that, right? So Lexmark, in everybody's mind, is not doing anything in Russia, safe to say, right? Let's go on. I want to read this a little bit. This is a Business in Russia, T Advisors, and this was back in 2018, launch of a project to localize the production of printers in Russia. So back in 2018, Ninestar and Pantom, right? So Pantom has this relationship in Russia, manufacturing the Pantom printer in Russia, right? So we're getting that, right? So maybe they're not manufacturing the Lexmark anymore in Russia, but they're manufacturing the Pantom printer in Russia. So we're all clear on that, right? So, and I'm sure that's still going on, right? Because I didn't see anything where they got out of that. That seems to be continuing to go on. But here's the question I have to say. So we have a Lexmark printer here, we got a Pantom printer here, and you can see they're totally different machines, right? Yeah, I think they're the same machine with a different label on them. But this is the one you don't sell to the Russian market. It says Lexmark on it. This is the one you can sell to the Russian market. It says Pantom. Bypass sanctions by changing label. Does it sound a little bit tough question to be asking? I think it probably does, but at the end of the day, I think it's a question that needs to be answered. And I'm pausing because I want you all to think about this. Do we really believe that these two printers are different, other than a name? We already know they're owned by the same people. As a matter of fact, Ninestar owns 100% of the Pantom business, and they own 63% of the Lexmark business. So it's safe to say that these are going down the same assembly line, I'm pretty sure. Now, of course, Ninestar, if they wanted to, say, oh, no, that's not how it works. I'd love to know how it actually works, because it looks to me like don't sell into the Russian market if it says Lexmark on it, but go ahead and sell it to the Russian market if it says Pantom on it. Or let's just help them make it in the Russian market. Folks, I got to ask you a question now. This is going to get a little bit tough, but I think we need to think about it. I'm not saying it's going on, but I want us to all think about it. Do they both have the same security features? Don't sell in the Russian market, the Lexmark. Sell to the Russian market, the Pantom. This is just something I imagined in my head that I want us all to think about. Could Russia or China work together to enhance hacking into the Lexmark brand? So they make the Pantom in Russia, right? Ninestar obviously cooperating with Pantom and Russia. There's no sanctions against Pantom in Russia. Are they selling, products, supplies? I mean, think about the Lexmark sale. I forgot to bring this up. So you think about the Lexmark sold off their interest, right, in the Marvel thing. Do they have an agreement to sell the people over there in Russia the parts and supplies for those machines and any technologies and boards and all that kind of stuff? Or does that all just go away? Because it seems to me if Lexmark's not selling anything into the Russian market, that would mean they wouldn't be able to sell anything for all those machines that are the Marvel brand too, right? See, there's so many questions to be asked here, folks. And we need our analysts out there to start asking them. But think about this. If the Russians are manufacturing the Phantom printer in Russia with the help of Ninestar, the owner of Phantom and the owner of Lexmark, and they figure out how they could hack into that stuff, are they going to share that? Had to pause, because, I mean, why would they? That goes back to the question. Do the American government agencies trust the China technology as much as the Chinese trust the American technology? Is that out of balance, out of whack? I think we absolutely have to explore this a whole lot more than we are. So let's go to this, and I want to just ask the question, where's the outrage considering Phantom? Where's the outrage for all the other OEMs? And here's the problem. Here's the big problem. Because all the other OEMs, for the most part, are what? Well, they're getting the Lexmark A4 equipment manufactured for them. So it's better to sit in silence than raise up any concerns. This is a problem. And we better, as an industry, be able to figure out how to address those concerns, raise those concerns, and talk about it. And we need to be talking about it a lot, my friends. Every OEM in this space has agreed with the sanctions except for Ninestar, that I'm aware of, right? Now, if Ninestar has some press release out there talking about how they're not going to be selling into the Russian market, I'd love to. I'll pull it up on the end of the day with Ray. You can come on the end of the day with Ray, and we can talk about how you're not selling into that Russian marketplace, like all the other OEMs in our entire industry. Ninestar is actively selling its Phantom brand in the U.S. and abroad, while at the same time is Ninestar benefiting by selling into Russia. I mean, if they're the only ones that are going to sell into Russia, that'll be a good thing for them, won't it? It's not a good thing for everybody else, I don't think. How is this fair to all the other OEMs? Will it be up to the consumers to just say no to all Ninestar products until we get these answers resolved? Should we all just say no to all the Ninestar products? It's a tough question, but I think it's a valid one. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the reality. In the United States, Lexmark has a lot of contracts with the government. We know it, right? Anybody that's been in our business knows that for a fact. Lexmark does a lot of business with the U.S. government. And there's been some issues raised around that over the last few years. But I assure you, there's going to be a whole lot more questions being asked. And this is why all these other OEMs have to start thinking about, do they have their own A4 strategy? Or is the A4 strategy to be in an alliance with the Chinese government and Ninestar? And it's come to the point where, look, folks, minds change. Minds change. Back in 2018, I was really hopeful that some other investors would come in there and take out the Ninestar position, but that's not happening. Lexmark is owned by Ninestar. And this is a big issue that everybody has to be thinking about. And if you don't think our government agencies are going to be asking questions around this, you're crazy. And this will come up in conversations. It will, folks. I want to talk about the government thing, because it was back in March or May of 2022, I did an episode on the Bloomberg article that came out. In the Bloomberg article, it's about China orders government state firms to dump foreign PCs. And basically, Bloomberg was talking about how China is looking at all their government offices, and they're saying, hey, you know what? We don't want to have Western technologies. And folks, there's a movement over there around this. Look it up, start researching it, asking some questions around that. And I did a video, and this is my first geopolitics video that I did, and I talked about, well, what the hell? If we're not going to have Western technologies in China, well, why in the world would we be putting China technologies into Western governments? I mean, shouldn't it be the same? Is China more concerned about security against the U.S. than the U.S. is concerned about security from China? Is it out of balance? I think we better get it in balance really, really quick. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk about this resolution to wrap up today's episode. This was in LA, and they were talking about single-use plastics, and we all know what that means, right? We don't want those clone cartridges coming in from China and that were single-use. And there are some arguments whether they're single-use or not, whether they can be remanufactured or not. But at the end of the day, on the majority, we were having a lot of cartridges dumped into the United States that ended up in landfills. LA passes a resolution to ban the sale of single-use printer cartridges. Here's where I want you all to start thinking, because I think I just opened up something we all need to think about. And I'll be really interested in talking to the remanufacturing industry about this subject, because folks, get ready. Does Amplify violate the resolution in LA? Does the Amplify agreement violate that resolution? Because in all reality, if you have DCA technologies, if you're collecting data and you're managing the only supply that can go in that machine is another OEM cartridge, does that not violate a single-use plastic resolution? And you could say, well, Ray, that's just crazy. That's not what they're talking about. They're talking about the cartridges only. My argument is, and I'd love to make this argument, if there's a dealer that's in the LA marketplace, reach out to me. I'd love to be able to make this argument with you. If you have a competitor in there with the Amplify agreement telling LA that they have to buy these machines, and in these machines I have an agreement with the OEM where you have to allow me to put only OEM cartridges in there, is that not defining a single-use plastic? I'm just asking the question. I think it could be a little bit of a stretch, but at the end of the day, sometimes things have to get stretched, and when they stretch, people start thinking, and when people start thinking, people start talking, and when people start talking, things change. So ladies and gentlemen, tune in tomorrow for part 2 of the Ninestar episode. I'm going to talk about their first half of fiscal 2022. Until then, remember this: status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo, and I'll see you all tomorrow.